What's up, Cool Betters, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Coolbet Canada Podcast. My name is Pat Gregoire, and I'd like to welcome on my co-hosts, Kris Abbott, aka Coolbet Kris, and of course, Jake Bolin Moss. Both these gentlemen will be riding shotgun all the time. Fellas, how we doing today?
I'm good, Pat. Yeah. So we got to be specific. We're off to a horrible start.
Of course.
So you got to dress one person. I'll start. I mean, good. Yeah, we're going into the weekend. It's early 2022, but this is the most jam-packed sports weekend we've had so far this year, and it might be for the next number of weeks. I mean, you've got the Australian Open, you've got the NHL, the NBA, the National Lacrosse League, UFC, and of course, obviously, a huge weekend in the NFL. Golf's back, so I mean, there's just a million things you can bet on right now.
Yeah, the schedule is loaded, like Kris said. We got three majors of the four sports. Big tennis, we got some Canadian ties there. Golf with some Canadian ties. There's a lot going on, so it's exciting, like Kris said. And then who knows, month or two here and we're into March Madness season, and I love the start of the year for sports. It's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different times of the sporting calendar that you could say is the best, but certainly right now is one of them. And I know it is Coolbet Canada. We're going to be talking a lot about wagering, but we'll be talking all different types of sports and different aspects, bringing on different guests as well too. This week we have one of our Coolbet brand ambassadors, JD Bunkis. He will be joining us. But before we get to that, we got to talk about how you can listen or watch. We know you're doing one right now, but we want to make sure that you don't miss a single episode. So subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you stream your favorite podcasts. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button down a little below. That way you will never miss a single episode. So, gentlemen, before we get going, as I mentioned, it's a great time to be a cool bettor. It's a great time to be a sports fan. And we've got some pretty good promotions going on at coolbet.com. And most notably right now, one that just dropped, and it's perfect timing considering UFC 270. The first UFC card of the 2022 year is this weekend. And we've got a pretty good promo, I have to say, Kris.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually before either of you guys were involved at Coolbet. We had, of course, the pandemic shut everything down in early 2020. And this was one of the first things that we ran with out of the gate. It was, bet on the UFC and get a free bet for anything you want on the rest of the sportsbook. And we're resurrecting that. Yeah, Undertaker.gif. We're bringing it back. The UFC bet and get special. So you go in, you place your wager, $25 or more for anything Saturday night in UFC 270, and then on Monday you'll get a free bet for anything you want in our sportsbook, $15, whatever you want to do with a big parlay. The only caveat is it's got to be a minimum of a minus 200 bet. But if you've got a $15 credit, you better not be betting less than minus 200.
Yeah, it's a great promotion, and I think obviously this card with 270, it's a big one. 271 on Super Bowl weekend as well, so another opportunity to sprinkle on some UFC. And the best part about this one, I think, is the fact that it's not just a bet for UFC. It's a free bet for whatever you want in the sportsbook, and we've talked about it ad nauseum already in just a few minutes of this podcast. There's so much to bet on. Jake, I know you've got your eyes on the Aussie Open. Before we bring on JD Bunkis, it's got to be pretty good. I mean, anytime you can watch the Aussie Open, first off, you got to be staying up pretty late or waking up pretty early in the morning. But when you have some Canadian content sprinkled in, it makes it a little more interesting to watch, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been great. Chapo off to the round of 16 for the first time in his career at the Aussie Open. It's been impressive what he's been able to do. If you saw the opponent he was up against last night, Riley Opelka from the U.S., he's a monster.
Unit.
Saw their handshake at the end. You wouldn't believe the two guys played the same sport, and you wouldn't even believe the little one ended up beating up on the big one. So, yeah, it's good to see. We'll have Felix tonight. Tonight is Friday, but you won't see this till Saturday morning. So he'll have a chance to get to the round of 16. Chapo's got a big opponent in Alexander Zverev from Germany, top 5 guy, and he'll be the toughest match so far for Chapo. So we'll see how those two do, and hopefully we get another quarterfinal, semifinal between them. Hopefully one of them at least.
Kris, so when we were in Peterborough last summer, is this the same guy, this monster of a guy that we were watching on TV in the hotel that night?
Yes,
man, that guy was absolute machine. Yeah, I wish I had known. I would have bet on him. Or did he win? He won last night.
No, he lost to Chapovalov.
Oh, yeah.
Huge serve, though. The guy is a monster. He's a monster.
I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not much of a tennis guy. In fact, I've kind of fallen away from just being super plugged into betting. Just unfortunately, the nature of the role that I have now, I have to worry about other things, and you guys are the ones that are plugged in. So I'm just going to kind of, during all this, just kind of chip in from the sidelines here. I'll be like the guy in Happy Gilmore, just from the sideline, just sniping from the gallery. But yeah, I mean, it's you guys are so plugged into everything that's going on. So I'm looking forward to learning a bit more as well.
Don't sell yourself short, Kris. I saw you were sprinkling a little bit on SHL hockey. So it takes a special breed to be dabbling in those waters.
You know what, though? It's funny. So that was a full on like Matt Murley, everybody rides play that my buddy threw out. He loves following those guys blindly. I mean, it's interesting. So I was like, yeah, sure, middle of the day, why not? And then Skellefteå is this massive favorite, and they go down 2-1 in a game with a total that's supposed to go over. And I'm like, well, I mean, they're probably going to come back and win too. So then I like reinvest on their money line, and then I'm way into it. And I'm like, oh man, it's Thursday afternoon, and I'm betting on this Swedish league that I do not watch. This is ridiculous. But it all worked out. It was good.
Well, you can't forget the darts parlays from last week or a couple weeks ago that you had going. The darts favorite parlays, those are awesome.
Well, we'll get JD going on the darts when he comes in, but darts is coming back. I was just looking a couple of weeks ago, and I saw it in our list of sports, like in the United Kingdom, the Masters, the darts Masters. So you said we had 3 of the 4 majors. We got a Masters going next weekend in the UK.
Let's go.
Big darts event, and some of those names look familiar. So I'll be on that as well. Just got to find a stream.
I'd love to get to one of those events. They are electric.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jake, you read my mind. I know I was listening to the Lock Shop. This was when it was going on, and I know our guy Huss said it was on his bucket list, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't want to find my way at one of those events. It looks like just an unbelievable time. And if you got a couple of shekels on the line while that's going on, it seems like it'd be pretty awesome.
Well, next year, what we're going to do is assuming the world is back to like some semblance of order, we're going to do the trip where you're going to start in Davos at the Spengler and you're going to finish up at the World Dart Championship in London. I mean, let's see, it's, we talk about sports trips all the time. We always think North America, but the Spengler Cup and then go over there for that. I mean, that's a good week, I think. So we got to figure out how we're going to give it away, but we're definitely doing that next year.
Oh, that sounds incredible. That sounds amazing. And speaking of sporting events, or I should say drinking events that also have a little bit of sports, the Scotties, that's coming up as well. Kris, do you have any idea when the folks can start seeing some of those outright odds coming up?
Yeah, I mean, by the time this drops, you might even see them there. I know that our curling guys and Matthew Hall especially has been putting together the odds for the Scotties. They changed the format this year a little bit. Some of the curlers last year, when it got to the weekend, they played their full pool games, so like 8 or 9 round robin games, 7 maybe, whatever it was. It was a significant number during the week. And then the playoffs were super condensed into like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. So you had teams that played 7 games all week, and then they're playing 4 games within like 30 hours. And some of the players complained a little bit about that structure. So they've taken 2 teams out of that crossover pool. So instead of 8 teams, it's now 6 teams. So that obviously affected the odds a little bit. So some adjustments going on, but we've got the draw schedule. It's all a go in Thunder Bay. Unfortunately, no fans, but Team Holman's going to be there. Emma Miskew skipping. So, yeah. Rachel's over with Johnny Moe in China at the mixed doubles. So yeah, some Coolbet branded athletes all over the place. We're really excited about it. And then, of course, we got the Briar coming up. We don't know which teams are going to that yet either. So remains to be seen if Team Epping is going to go back once again to the Briar.
Lots of uncertainty in curling, but one thing that we do know, the NFL Divisional Round is set. And of course, we're going to start things off with our conversation with J.D. Bunkis right there. We now welcome on to the podcast one of the co-hosts of the Fan Morning Show, the proud creator of the Cowards Parlay, the most handsome man from any of the territories in Canada, and most importantly, a Coolbet Canada brand ambassador. JD Bunkis, thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Boys, absolutely thrilled. And yes, all 6 of the boys back home are devastated that I got they are crushed. All the other 6 Yukon lads are just devastated that they just don't have a platform to be able to make the claim. I think I might be dead last. I'm not even joking. I'm definitely closer to last than first. There's just no doubt about it. How's it going? This is great. I'm glad to be here for the first one.
I can see you. I've been to the Performing Arts Center in Whitehorse. That's actually a nice building. I could see you winning the Mr. Yukon pageant with the sash, the whole thing. What would your talent be in the Mr. Yukon pageant?
I can juggle 2 things at once for like 10 seconds. like 2 juggling balls in one hand. Like I read the juggler's book for like 2 seconds. They were like, "Yep, throw one up," and then I can do it like 3 times. So that would probably be my talent. It would be pretty sick.
Yeah, maybe you are 6th. Maybe you are 6th.
I don't know.
Well, I heard you were a pretty good lacrosse goalie when you tried that out a couple of years ago with the Toronto Rock, who's also a proud partner here with Coolbet Canada as well.
Yeah, I love the Rock. I love going to the games. It's just hard as somebody who used to play, to watch and not be a part of the games now. To just watch from the sidelines, the seats, like a normal fan is hard for me to experience because, as those guys all know, I strapped on the pads, made saves, made big saves, was in the facility, tried on the gear. It fit me well. No, they lit me up, obviously. I talked some time about being able to be a pro lacrosse goalie. I will say this. Number one is that Nick Rose is genuinely one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He brought me in the building. He's just the whole time gassing me up, giving me tips. Like if somebody called me out and said that radio is the easiest job in sports media, you think that I'd be sitting there going, and this is how you prep and this is what you do? No, like absolutely not. Are we swearing on this? What are we doing? Is this a clean?
Yeah.
Let it fly.
Just if something so happens to happen, like I just want to know what the parameters are. So anyways,
parameters are there's no parameters. We can't advertise gambling to children. That's basically where the parameters stop. So we put an 18+ warning on this and we let it fly.
Yeah. Okay, because I was going to say I've been sending some promo codes to a few babies, Kris. I didn't know that was the rule. I didn't know that was the rule. I thought it was all.
JD's standing outside the maternity ward at the hospital. He's like, "Hey, before you guys go home, I'd like you to spread the good word."
I got Coolbet gear. I got Coolbet onesies. I'm like, yeah, these are hospital issues. Nick was amazing, and Nick was actually giving us tips. And I got to admit that. So because I played goalie in hockey, there was this part of me that really had this belief that I was going to show up there, and it was going to be like a movie. like not all the way. I'm a rational thinking human being. I know that deep-seated wise, it wasn't going to be that way, but I thought I was going to do enough where these guys were like, "Oh, he played," like that. No. No. So first of all, they shoot it so hard, right? It's just incredible. Like when you're up close and personal with it, how hard those guys can rip it is nuts. And there was one guy there, Brett Hickey, who ripped it harder than anybody else. And you could tell that he was actually mad about what I said about the cross goalies because he was putting them by my ear. Like he wasn't trying to score. He's the only guy that I was stopping by virtue of him trying to take my head off and not put one in the back of the net. But my favorite was what's the owner's name, Kris?
Jamie?
Yeah,
Jamie Dowick.
Dowick, that's it. I just couldn't remember the last name. So Jamie Dowick is there. but I don't know. I thought he was just like the equipment manager. He's dressed down and he's wearing like sweats and a tee, and he's out there taking shots too. And he was the worst one. So I was like, oh. Like, that's cool that they let the equipment manager out here and just rip on the boys. And he was so nice too. So every time I go off to the side, thank God I wasn't actually talking shit, because I kept going off to the side being like, yeah, Bubba, this is really hard, equipment manager. And he's like, yeah, it is really hard. It's a really tough sport. So I was John with him the whole day. We were yapping about like the Leafs and all kinds of different stuff. And then it was one of those like, it turned out to be like a movie, because it was one of those like, you leave the arena and I check my Twitter and he's on. I was like, oh, the equipment manager has like 4,000 followers. That's
verified.
No, so I actually got to say that out of that entire thing, like all those guys were amazing. The ball, like they definitely whip it way harder than you'd ever think. There's some of those guys that I think it's hilarious that they scrap with no skates. Like it's just because like hockey is about balance and you don't really fight. It's like, yeah, you chuck them, but you don't really fight. You're more like wrestling and then trying to chuck. And then like guys' hands get so beat up. I can't even believe that they throw. And I think that some guys hold back from the lacrosse. They just stand out there. It's like, all right, real fight. It's like, okay.
I
real
know.
fight.
It's a street fight. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Street fight. It's street fight. It's the best. It's actually the best. But I hate it's almost too good, because whenever I do go to games, I'm always like, all right, like that's a good goal, but now let's see some fights. Like let's go, boys. Come on, who's the scrappers? Like who's gonna go here? So yeah, I loved it. But yeah, Jamie, I didn't have enough positive things. Like amazing facility, great guys, great team, great experience. Yeah, I couldn't even believe the facility. It was just like top notch.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
You went
facility.
to the one in Oakville, the track?
Yeah, we went down to the Oakville facility. Yeah, and Jamie treated us great. Like, gave us a ton of gear. Like, it was just an awesome time. Like, did make some saves for us. Like, not didn't go over.
We know.
Made some saves, but didn't rewrite the script of Rudy. So
there's video of them somewhere. There's also a video of like 1,000 going behind me, but like there are some that didn't.
Well, I feel like it's not like you have time to react. So you talk about how quickly that ball moves, which, by the way, not a soft sphere, that lacrosse ball. Like, if that hits you without the equipment, you're going to feel it. So,
it's kind of fun to wear. You feel invincible. Like, I remember putting it on and just telling, like, as I was with Ennis, I was like, hit me with that stick. One of those where you're like, you're so big, you're so padded, right? But the impossible one, because on a shot, you can get an angle and they can pinpoint it. But when they were doing breakaway drills, like, because I did play goalie in hockey, and it's all about not making the first move, which is the same thing in this, where it's like you're just supposed to stand there and be as like stone cold as possible, and then make one good reaction to the play, right? Make them overthink it. But they're using their wrists. Like they're just like, this is like, to not make the first move is next near impossible. Like it was embarrassing. Like I'd make a first move and they're like tucking it wherever they want, like ooh, down, and then you have to get up in that heavy ass equipment. So like they score on you like 4 or 5 times in a row in a shootout drill, and you're sitting there and all that equipment sweating, being like, oh, I'm gonna have a panic attack. This is it. This is like I'm going down. This is how I go. Like I died in lacrosse stuff. They're gonna have to get like the scissors, like. And just like rip all the gear off. It's not going to be pretty. So
it's a good thing you know the equipment manager if they got to do that.
I was like, I bet you he had to get his first day. He's going to be ready. He's going to be ready to rock and roll. Give me mouth to mouth, Jiggy Dowig.
That's incredible. Well, I can just end the podcast here because you just spent so long gassing up lacrosse. Everyone knows how big of a lacrosse guy I am. But honestly, man, like I totally agree. Jamie Dowick, that organization, class act, and I couldn't be more thrilled that we're partnered with them. And unfortunately, this weekend, no rock game this week, no TSN game of the week. But I will say, man, like with lacrosse, when you sprinkle a little bit more, especially on a total, like the game just becomes even more electric. I know, Kris, you've become quite the fan of betting on NLL now.
Well, I was at the home opener out at First Ontario Centre, the old Cops Coliseum, which, by the way, it was awesome. Like the whole lower bowl was sold out. They built some really good goodwill that night, and then of course, look what happens then a few weeks later. Right now, they've got to start all over again once capacity is allowed. But I mean, we've got season tickets out there, boys. So the 4 of us will go out and
let's go.
We might have to find some sort of GO train route back into the city, or maybe we chip in on an Uber XL or something.
the entire time. TV star Pat is going to be on the desk, just like, oh, very mature, very on the desk.
We'll make sure.
JD Bunkis coming up to play nets. Ready. Made some saves. Here's the highlight reel that he custo sent me.
We'll make sure it's one I'm off the clock. We'll have a time. But that's enough lacrosse talk even for me. Let's get into what everyone wants to talk about this weekend. NFL Divisional Round, and this one's pretty interesting for me. 3 of the 4 games are rematches, but I think we're going to see a lot different teams than what we saw from before. Not saying the team that maybe won before is going to lose, but I just think that we've seen a lot of growth from some of these teams. Let's start with the one game, though, that's not a rematch. Bengals at Titans right now. Tennessee -3.5. The Bengals, you can get them at +162 on the money line. For me, this is a team in the Bengals. Everyone's talking about Joe Burrow. Don't get me wrong. He's electric. That offense is incredible. He's a winner. But the Titans just seem to be so slept on as a number 1 seed. JD, where do you see this game going?
Okay, so I think the Bengals are plucky. And I think that offense right now is just firing in a way where the Burrow Chase connection is terrifying to me. And then those other receivers, they basically get no headlines, but they've got 3 guys who can catch the rock and who scare you. And then all of a sudden there's the tight end Uzama, who every once in a while comes up with a big play. They just have enough out there that they terrify me for some kind of like a backdoor cover play. Also, that rookie kicker they have, what's his name, McPherson?
Evan McPherson, yeah.
He's been lights out this season. He's one of the best kickers in football. And in a playoff game, I actually do think about – I think sometimes we forget that the kickers are on the teams and that we go, okay, well, this defensive line and that offensive line, and we do all the matchups, right? And then what does it come down to a lot of times? It comes down to kicks. And since he has a big-time kicking advantage here.
I will not take the Randy Bullock slander. That's not
exactly. All the kickers on all the teams, you know who they are because they're good, except the Titans kicker. You know who he is because he stinks. So that's a little spooky to me. I will say that this game could come down to something where I need a Bullock big kick. That's a little terrifying. But Pat, I'm with you in this. I like the coach way more. I really do. Yeah. Vrabel is probably coach of the year. You know that Vrabel's 8-0 when his team has more than a week's rest?
I actually didn't know that. I did not know that.
No, coaches matter. And this is no offense to Zach Taylor, but you might be a bozo. Like you might be like completely getting carried by Joe Burrow. This might be the new Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll combo where the quarterback's so good that he keeps the bozo coach employed for like year after year after year. And then the fan base slowly grows to hate the coach. I think like there's potential. If you could buy stock in that relationship, this would be the primary one. I don't like the lines. Like the Titans have a better offensive line than the Bengals have a defensive line. And the Titans D-line is one of the most underrated units in football. Like, do you guys remember that Rams game where Jeffrey Simmons was just like, yeah, this is who I am. It's a standalone game. I'm gonna brutalize Matt Stafford tonight. That's kind of how I see this, is where I'm like, where do the Bengals have an advantage? And it's not even necessarily at receiver because they have A.J. Brown. Yeah. Their quarterback has been top 10 in Pro Football Focus like the last 3 seasons, and no one ever talks about him and pretends like Tannehill is still that same old bum that he was in Miami, but he's really good. And I love how Tannehill always seems to come up with, one of those big plays in a game where he either breaks you with his legs and scampers in for one, or he makes a big toss to A.J. Brown. They're healthy. They're well coached. They've got the better lines. They're the more balanced team. They're more experienced. If we're doing this as a money line play for a parlay, especially, I just think the Titans are going to find a way. I think that they're the find a way team. And that's not even talking about the potential about them getting Derrick Henry back. Like, I don't even think they need him to win this game. They could have Donta Foreman, who is quality without him. Like, even if he's a decoy, they have somebody who's running the ball hard. So I do like the Titans here. It's one of my more confident picks this weekend. The only thing for me is the hook, because I really do feel like this could end up being a game again where I'm saying, better kick this fucking field goal, Randy. Like,
it is the hook, right? But I think, the more time I spend around this industry, the more time that leaving that at 3.5 instead of 3 is the book being like, we want you to take Cincinnati with confidence here, right? So I try to weigh that a little bit, and you also got to we've done this plenty in our time together, all of us, and overthought things. But I agree with a whole lot of the things JD is saying. You talk about Mike Vrabel. This is a guy who found a way to outfox Bill Belichick in the playoffs. So if you can do that, then you got my vote. Until you don't.
I think that the Bengals are the team we all want to bet on, but not necessarily the team we all should bet on. That's the issue I have with it. Is who wants to cheer against Joe Burrow right now?
No, that whole team is likable, right? Like you talked about it, like T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. These guys are number one wide receivers on a lot of teams, right? So I'm a big fan of what the Bengals will be, but I think on the road here in Nashville, I might go down with it. But this is the play that we just did the lock shop with Dusty and Hustler, and this was my play that I said was my most confident one out of all the games this weekend.
Here's the Yeah, I was gonna say, Jake, like we need to don't if it's a clean sweep, then I'm gonna be like,
I was gonna say, I hope you're on the Bengals because I will be terrified if you're not.
Well, I wasn't too concerned with where I was leaning until you guys both like the Titans, and now that I like the Titans, I almost don't like the Titans anymore.
God damn it!
I don't know. It's a hard situation for me.
I'm too dumb to all just be this smart.
I got a chance to go down to Nashville and see a Titans game this year versus the Chiefs. They handled Mahomes and those guys pretty well. I like what Vrabel's built there. They have the playoff experience, and then if you think back to that Bengals game last week, I don't know. It seems like people think they blew the Raiders out of the water. It was a one-score game, came right down to the last play, and the Raiders. I don't know what you guys think on them, but I was never really high on them. They really probably shouldn't even made the playoffs. I mean, Chargers definitely should have had them in that final game of the season, but it is what it is. So I'm really not too high on the Bengals. I think there are a lot of people that will see that plus number for the money line and be all over it, but I don't know. It's hard to fight the experience of Vrabel, what he's been able to do, getting him that one seed, the run game, even like you said, without Henry, it's hard to fade the Titans. I'll probably buy the hook and take it at 3, but it's hard to fade the Titans for me.
Yeah, it's just it. I will say, us all being on the Titans, like we've all said, it scares me. But
Terrifying.
It just seems like, Kris, you said it the best. Like that hook is just enticing everyone, to jump in on the Bengals, because it feels like everyone's cheering for the Bengals. Like, but then behind the scenes, they're like, yeah, there's no way I'm actually going to bet on them. Like, it's too good to be true. And I feel like for this instance as well, like the Bengals are just kind of happy to be here at this point. They're playing with house money. Like Zach Taylor, like he was in the bar last week handing out game balls to fans. Like it just seems all so happy-go-lucky, like they've already reached it. And the Titans like haven't even played a game yet. Vrabel is you said that 8-0 stat. Like he's a guy that is built for playoffs. And I think this is a spot that's just too good not to go with the Titans. And I'm going to be riding on them. And who cares that all 4 of us are on it, because I just like them too much. So we'll switch to the next game.
Like Jake saying that's a good reminder. They beat the Raiders barely. And I really thought the Raiders sucked, and I was waiting all week to fade the Raiders, and the Bengals still made me sweat that out. And we should also remember that it's like that still is a guy who won his first playoff game at home versus a guy who now has to go and play a playoff game on the road against a rested team that's been preparing for them and thinking about them for maybe 2 weeks. Like that's a big swing. That's a big difference.
And we can talk about how great their offense is. Their defense is an absolute dumpster fire. So when you look at it that way, let's get to the next game, though. 49ers at Packers. Green Bay -5.5 right now. You can get the 49ers at +190 on the money line. And it's 47 for the total right now. This one's interesting. We again, this is the first rematch that we're seeing. We saw typical too much time on the clock for Rodgers. They go ahead and win. But this is a team that Rodgers grew up cheering for, and he's struggled quite a bit in the playoffs. 0-3 in the postseason against the 49ers. But I think with the exception of that first game of the season, the Green Bay Packers have been probably the best team from top to bottom in the NFC and possibly even in the NFL. Kris, I know you've talked about this one here. Are you still thinking that this is Green Bay just going to truck their way to the Super Bowl, or does the trendy pick of the 49ers kind of entice you here?
Well, I liked the Packers during the year, but they showed enough deficiencies that I'm not sold on them. I think we might be getting a little bit of a Dallas Cowboys situation here, where they played in a division that wasn't super strong. There was, a couple of incompetent coaches in the division. So I wonder how good they actually are when, I love to rag on all coaches, Kyle Shanahan included, but listen, the deficiencies I've seen the most in the Packers game is their run defense.
Yeah.
So I think between Deebo Samuel, whoever's going to be playing at running back for the 49ers, yards after catch for George Kittle, I think it's going to be a game where Green Bay's defense spends a lot of time on the field. And the best way to beat the Green Bay Packers is to keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline. So I like the 49ers spread here. I actually think they are, well, maybe not the best underdog pick, but it 1A, because I think the Rams might win, but I'll never bet on them.
JD?
This game is I think it's really sexy to take the Niners, because they were the sexy underdog team that we all liked against the Cowboys, and they came through for everyone. And this is just a step up an opponent that I don't know if they're going to get the win. The spread is a different one. And I know that this is playoff football is usually a tricky one for me, because I like to, if I'm going to bet an underdog, I'm probably not going to bet the spread. I'm going to bet the Niners outright. Same thing goes for the Bengals. All these dogs this week, they're short enough where if it's a short dog, I'm just going to bet the win. So to me, that's the way I look at playoff football. Who's going to win? And then from there, I start to look at, what I think the deviation is going to be. With the Packers, I like what Kris said about the run defense. That's totally the part that scares you, because it's not even just a new Green Bay thing. This is a constant Green Bay thing, is they have been soft against the run. The reason why they've lost to Niners teams in the past too has been Colin Kaepernick on the run, scampering out and beating them on the ground. So I'm totally aware of that. I red flag that. That scares me. Can I see a scenario where they beat them up, they control the clock, they punch some in, Shanahan gets the better of his old buddy LaFleur? Absolutely, I can. The difference here, though, is I think that right now the Packers have the best thing in this game, which is the Adams and Rodgers connection. All year long, guys, we've been betting on the Packers. Why? Because those two guys have been unstoppable. The Niners are not a good pass defense team. They're not. They're bad against big plays in their secondary. And so I'm looking at it and saying, all right, Green Bay might be susceptible here, but these are the plays that I trust more for touchdowns. And if you look at the last 5 or 6 weeks too, Allen Lazard has all of a sudden established himself as a guy too. He's got 5 touchdowns. I'm actually looking at his props for a TD in this game, because I think he's probably going to be someone that gets a little slept on. I don't know what his number is, but I'm going to guess that it's going to be around plus 200, plus 220. Maybe it's 180 is where you start to maybe lose that value. But if it's above the 2, then I'll probably play the Lazard touchdown prop. I just think Rodgers is dialed in. I'm terrified of him right now from a Niners fan. Plus, you factor in what's Bosa's health right now. Fred Warner was on the field holding his leg in pain, and then somehow he's just fine and good to go, and he's going to be 100%. That guy's arguably the best linebacker in football. And if we're talking about them trying to stop teams in pass coverage, he does that extremely well. So I don't know, man. This might be a little bit too much to chew. And I'm kind of breaking this down. We're thinking about all these things, the running game and the Packers history and Rodgers history. And then at the end of this, I'm I get Aaron Rodgers at home versus Jimmy Garoppolo. And if Jimmy Garoppolo falls behind, do I trust him against that Packers secondary to make plays to get them back in it? I don't. So I think Rodgers is going to score. And if it comes down to Jimmy G having to score too, I'm not buying it yet. So I'm taking the Packers here. I'm scared of the spread. I think that again, this is probably going to be a money line parlay play for me is the Packers, but I still think that's a good price. And I think that finding the Lazard touchdown prop is the way that I'm going to play the Packers as well. And Deebo Samuel over rushing yards. That's my favorite bet ever, is I play that every week and I've never lost it. And you guys keep giving away free money. Everybody gives away free money. So, Deebo Samuel, last week his number was 27.5. He had 70 something. I was thank you, Coolbet. Thank you.
Yeah. Very big rushing and receiving. Well, Lazard's at plus 160. No. So Lazard's at plus 165 for a touchdown. So the market's caught up. The market's caught up, especially when you look at the fact that Kittle is plus 175 and Brandon Ayuk is plus 210. So those numbers kind of would have you believe that the book thinks that scoring is going to be harder to come by for the 49ers, as does the total. The total of 47, we just both talked about how these offenses have an advantage over the defenses they're playing, and we got a total of 47, which that's stinky to me too.
Yeah. Jake, is there anything that you, please, for the love of God, please tell me that you're on the 49ers here, because I'll get to why I like the Packers in a bit.
This game is an interesting one. Biggest spread of the weekend. We got Rodgers at home at Lambeau Field, which we know what he can do there. He's a monster. But I feel like, to me, I look at this and Rodgers is really, let's say, best regular season quarterback of all time. But then it comes to the playoffs. He's won one NFC championship. I know this isn't the NFC championship yet, and one Super Bowl. So I don't know what goes on where all of a sudden we talk about Rodgers like he's God, and then we get to these moments and he loses.
Right there, Russ. That's what's gone on. That's what's gone on. Is that man comes for him? That is the man who knocks. Like, that's who that is.
And then he manages to lose these big games. This is one I think Green Bay can definitely win. Can they cover? Oh, I don't love the number at 5.5. This is the one I was actually looking at yesterday. You can get, I believe, 6.5 was around minus 128 on the plus side for San Fran. I don't mind that. Get that nice 6 number as opposed to the 5. But I kind of agree with JD here. I think it's a Green Bay money line play, San Fran spread. So if you want to play both, like one in a parlay, one just as a solo, that's kind of the direction I'd go. I'd stick with one or the other if you're going to do it like that. But yeah, it's hard to take away Rodgers against Jimmy in Lambeau. It's too much for me, I think, for the Niners to handle. We'll see what happens if they can get
Jimmy goes no sleeves. Like Kaepernick, he just shows up. He's got no sleeves. He's just like,
I might change my pick if that's the case.
Yeah.
Jimmy is 100% running for the parka in between series, and we know that.
So teammates love him though, eh? Like they really do. Like the Niners,
he's gorgeous. Are you kidding me? How do you not love that man?
Maybe slaying.
You go to. You go to yell at him, you just get lost in his eyes. You can't even get mad at him, right? Like,
I feel like since that Super Bowl loss, he's starting to gain a little gray. I don't know if you guys have noticed that last few games.
Yeah, it looks good. Whoa!
No, I didn't say it was a bad
thing. It's a good look.
He's got a little gray going. It wasn't the same Jimmy that I remember from a few years ago with the jet black. He's kind of getting a little salt and pepper. I don't mind it. I mean, he's
I don't mind
like
it either.
I will say though. Yes. I will say that I'm just not going to galaxy brain myself here, and I'm going to break it down as simple as I can. Rodgers versus Jimmy G. And I'll throw one other sprinkle in as well. You can't tell me the weather doesn't play a factor here. Jimmy G's never, ever played an NFL game in below freezing weather. Aaron Rodgers is 28-8 in below freezing weather and 6-3 in the playoffs. So when it comes down to it, the moment might be too big. I just... That atmosphere is different in Lambeau. And yes, Aaron Rodgers has crumbled under pressure before. I don't know if this is that spot. I don't know. And I think this is a true, fuck you tour for Aaron Rodgers. I think there's nothing that he would prefer more to end his career or end his tenure in Green Bay with a Super Bowl and then say, screw this, I'm going somewhere in California and playing the rest. Thanks a lot, guys, but I'm done with this organization. And I think so. Or he'll just retire, or he just retires. I think there's nothing more that he would like to do that. And I just don't see them losing here. I really don't. And thank you, 49ers. My biggest play of the year was last week on the money line on the spread. I just don't see them doing that 2 weeks in a row, like you said, JD. I just don't see it.
Chris, Aaron Rodgers 2+ touchdowns?
It's not out for that yet.
It's not out for that? That's probably one then, Pat, if you're feeling that way, that you'll have to monitor. I'm guessing that it'll come in as a minus number, but a short minus still for 2+.
Really? Right? You think him to throw 3 touchdowns is going to be minus?
No. Well, you can get the ones that Coolbet has both. You can buy the one that has the push, or you can buy the one that is over 2.5. But yeah, the number's definitely going to be 2.5 at a plus number. That is the total, I would guess.
So the 2+, it's out in Bet Builder. The 2+ is
plus 140.
They won't show me until I add something. Hang on, we got to add
I just
the Packers to win.
Like he's gonna throw like that.
So you're not wrong. So him to go 2+ and the Packers to win is -133.
Wow.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying, because you get the push on that too in that Bet Builder, and so that's why that is the way it is. But even still, like I don't love that. I wouldn't be. That's not nearly enough juice for me to get those two things.
No.
Like I think the Niners could win. Like people who are betting the Niners this week. Let me just put it this way: like this is one where when people say they're doing it, I almost respect the balls. I almost respect the belief in Niners fans to say that this is going to happen, because like. Yeah, the scenario you outlined, Kris, where they dominate the line of scrimmage is a believable one to me. It's just I'm in Pat's camp of, okay, if the Niners get a lead, I think that the Packers can come back, and I don't see it the other way around. So like I'm like a game script guy where it's like that they're just less game script dependent than the Niners are. Yeah. And I just think that big plays in the playoffs too, right? Who's going to make a big play? I think it's going to be Adams. I think that Adams or Lazard, one of those two guys is going to come up with some kind of like 64-yard breaking play in a big spot that just kicks the Niners' playoff chances in their teeth. Like, that's just it. I just think that they're more likely to do this. Also, like, I love Kyle Shanahan, but LaFleur is really good. So I just don't think that there's like a massive tip in the coaches, right? When I'm doing these, like, okay, well, who's going to be able to take more advantage of the other unit? I think that LaFleur is on that level with Shanahan. He's not that guy, but he's like in that grouping of top coaches in the NFL that deserve that kind of level of respect in a playoff game where I think they're going to come through. Granted, he's also the guy that did the whole we're not going to go for it on 4th down. We're going to kick a field goal and try to
So this is exactly, I was waiting for you to stop speaking so I could ask you this. Do you think that Matt LaFleur has learned from that and will be more aggressive this time around? Because I agree with you. They could get up and put this away early. Or does he play to not lose? And that's curious to me.
I don't know. I'm gonna watch it play out, but I do respect him as a coach. I think that's hard, even in that division, to go like back-to-back years where they were 13-3 a couple of years ago, and what were they this season? 13-3 again.
Yeah, but look at that division, man.
I forget that there's an extra game now. So
an extra game now, yeah.
Like what that is, what the version of 13-3 is. Yeah, I buy what Pat says about the cold. I buy that it's the quarterback play. I think that the secondary edge against the Niners secondary, that counteracts the Niners edge on the ground. Like, that's just it for me. But maybe the Packers defense ends up on the field too long again. Maybe they're just beat up at the end of the game. Maybe Rodgers throws a bad turnover. Like, yeah, all those things are on the table. I'm more confident in the Packers winning this game than I am the Niners. And that's my most confident of the plays. It's just Aaron Rodgers winning.
Chris, I think sorry, go ahead, Jake. Go.
Yeah, and I was going to say maybe not as important as those points, but when they did meet early in the season, Packers 30-28, like Pat said, little Rodgers drive at the end of the game. So could be a scenario where the last team that has the ball wins the game. You never know. One-score game last time they met. Well,
I do very well see the opportunity for Rodgers to win this on the last-minute drive, right? Like, that would be so NFL for the Niners to be up late and Rodgers to come back. So that's why 5.5 is sneaky, because they get a walk-off touchdown. They don't have to kick the extra point. It's all setting up too good. But I don't know. I think it'll be a close game. So when I think it's going to be a close game, I'm okay taking the dog with the points. And boys, like, Deebo Samuel doesn't get cold. The cold gets Deebo Samuel. So, very Chuck Norris-esque.
I love Deebo. Betting against Deebo.
Dumb. I'm gonna go with you on his props as well, especially with rushing. Chris, I think we need a prop though. How many times Washington football fans, their hearts are going to be crushed when they show that graphic so many times this weekend of the coaches that are still coaching this weekend that were a part of that staff with LaFleur, McVay, and I guess Shanahan would have been there as well. And I think even the offensive coordinator for the 49ers was there as well. They're just going to hammer that home so often about how terribly they messed up that coaching staff. They could have had any of them
You're presuming that there's Washington football team fans out there. Presuming that anyone gives a shit.
I think it was Jay Gruden at that time, right? Or was it somebody else?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's tough. Jay had a moment where everyone thought he was going to be the guy, but no, it turned out no.
Tough
year for the Grudens. It just continues, eh? Like they're just going to stomp that in. Tougher year.
Yikes. Well, Jake, we heard you with the slander of Aaron Rodgers, and the reason why I think we know is you're a known Tom Brady stan. Your Patriots are done, so you throw off your Mac Jones jersey, you're throwing on your Brady Bucks jersey. So I know where you're going here.
Like, you hate it's the most fucking disgusting thing you ever seen. Like these guys were like, they at the all season long, the Patriots are good, and they're like, we're fucking back, Billy Belichick, and then they lose, and it's just like, oh, I knew we were good. I knew this team were down. And, Tom's gonna get it done for us. Oh, TB12, let's go, baby. Fuck you, Jake. Like, let's tell you.
This season doesn't count anyway. Like there was a pandemic.
Year for Mac, Mac learned a lot. Yeah, next year. Let's see. Okay, let's go. What do you got for Tom Brady this weekend? What's he doing? Wait, where are we going here?
We're going to the Bucs.
Bucs. All right. Tell us why Brady's gonna win.
Well, the thing is, I don't know how I managed to do it. The last 2 seasons, I was back into the Pats with Cam last year. Obviously, we know how that turned out. And then I said to myself, I'm like, I'm not cheering for Tom Brady. My mom is a Tom Brady fan. She does it. That's how I got onto the Pats to begin with. She's a Tom Brady person. So once he left, she was gone too. She's a Bucs fan now. Yeah, okay. And it drives me insane. And then I don't know how it happens, but this time of year rolls around, Patriots are to the playoffs, and I'm right back on the Tom wagon. Like, here I am. Like where I said I wasn't going to be at the start of the season, here I am. You don't make money betting against Tom Brady in the playoffs. I don't know. It's hard to fade him in this spot. The problem is, so an underdog is winning this weekend. So far, I didn't give out the Green Bay spread, but an underdog's winning outright this weekend. And so far, I like all the favorites, which I hate myself for. But I like Tampa in this spot. But it's all going to be based on how that offensive line looks. It got messy last week with the Eagles. I don't know what the situation is with the center, Jensen, and I think their left tackle went down. Wirfs, stud. That backup left tackle was not Wirfs. I think we saw that a little bit. So that's going to be a big issue for Tampa if they can't protect Tom. But I don't know. You saw what he was able to do with not all his guys. No Godwin last week, no Fournette, and then Keyshawn Vaughn has a sick game, and Evans does his thing, and Gronk catches the touchdown, and it's just, I don't know. He just finds a way to do it. Stafford, it can get messy with him. We saw it near the end of the season, throwing some bad interceptions and just a lot of issues that really can't happen with the amount of weapons they have in LA. I think it's a scenario where if Pat wants to say, all right, Aaron Rodgers versus Jimmy G, I think you can say, well, Tom Brady versus Matt Stafford. And if he can get the ball out quick enough without that Rams D line getting to him, I like Tom in the spot with the 3.
Well, I think that's the problem. I don't think it is Tom Brady against Matt Stafford. It's Tom Brady against Von Miller and Aaron Donald, and that's a whole different ball game. And Tom can't, like, Kyler couldn't get out of the pocket and survive. What's Tom going to be able to do? So I think. Listen, you know I'm not betting on the Rams. Like, I'm just on principle not betting on the Rams.
Thank you. So I can win money on the Rams, Kris.
Yeah, no, listen, Sean McVay can be as smart as he wants, but he's not getting my money. So I think, in this game, I'm just going to take a Gronk touchdown and sit back, and maybe I'll take an Odell touchdown and just enjoy it and hope that both teams lose.
So, Jake, you did the Brady thing, and I'm like already afraid of my bet, because you're right. He's the GOAT, right? He's the alien. And I already picture myself, losing this bet and sitting there, and Matt Stafford's thrown, and Matt Stafford, 2 interceptions, just, didn't have tonight. And Tom Brady just going up and being like, yeah, we're going to go to another championship game, and being like, the dumbest fucking person who ever lived. You know that? Like, you're the stupidest fucking guy. Every year Tom Brady wins, and every year, like last year you had the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, you're so confident. Like, guess what? Halftime you were like, what's the live bet for Chiefs spread? Like it was torture. So I hear that. I think that there's too much damage done right now to the Bucs. And it was something that I had already flagged going into the playoffs when they lost AB and Godwin, because those guys were important to them. And Mike Evans had a really good game, but the Patriots also, or the Patriots, my God, see, you've already done to me. We're like, I blend the two together. The Bucs got that lead before the Eagles could even get their feet set. And there was some bad plays by Hurts, who causes some turnovers. But if you think about that game, there's that holding call early. There's that interception in the corner where a defensive back falls down and Hurts sees an open receiver and the safety comes across. Their defense came up and made some really big plays, which let the Patriots, essentially once Wirfs and Jensen were both beat up, go into run the ball, run the clock, just get the odd check down mode, keep the chains moving. I'm just with Kris on this. I think that Wirfs and Jensen, as of today, and it's Friday, I know this is going to be coming out Saturday morning, they couldn't participate in the walkthrough. They're beat up. Those are big guys that are beat up. I don't think that you can get healthy enough with Wirfs in a week where all of a sudden Von Miller's across from you and you're okay. I think they're going to have to put the backups in. And Tom Brady last week had less time in the pocket than any quarterback that played on the weekend, which is a pretty scary statistic. So he and Arians are going to try to draw some up where they're like, okay, let's get the ball out quick. Except remember, who are their two get the ball out quick guys? It's Godwin and it's AB. Those are their two guys. So yeah, they're going to throw stuff to Gronk, right? And he's going to have those little bubble screens where he rumbles over somebody and he picks up some first down. So I would be looking at Gronk in this game. I would be looking at his props and saying his receptions, his yardage, maybe yardage will be a bit too high, but receptions for sure. I like Kris where you're at with the touchdown, but the Rams are competent. That defense is star power. And if you're telling Tom Brady he's got to force one out too quick, well, this week it's Jalen Ramsey. That's going to be probably going on a lot of those Mike Evans plays. So now it's that's gone too. We're getting pretty deep into the Tom Brady has to beat the LA Rams with Cam
Gio
Brady.
Bernard, baby. Gio Bernard.
Scotty Miller game.
I was just going to say that, man.
That's Kris.
I'm serious.
That's a prop. That's a prop.
check down. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Gio Bernard, because if they fall down in that game, he's going to catch the rock. Tom loves checkdowns, and he's going to catch the rock.
He loves Gio Bernard. Gio Bernard.
Yeah, he does. He does trust Gio. He loves his little check down guys. He's like, ooh, I see my James White in you. Let's go. I like that one. That's actually I love the Rams here. I'm taking them just outright to win. I think they're going to come through for me. God, Matt Stafford, I've ripped on you your entire career. Prove me wrong. Have all my buddies text me, my Lions fans friends who have said he sucks to for his entire career. Just come through for me this one time. But yeah, what is it now? Plus 140 for the Rams to win? Somewhere in there, plus 139. I think
134 earlier, about an hour ago.
So money's coming in on the Rams already. Kris, I told you I moved the lines on the show, and you won't. You won't give me credit.
Can I add a couple quick things here, Pat? I just want to mention that Jordan Whitehead on the Bucs defense is unbelievable. I was watching him after watching the Pats linebackers, who are maybe the worst linebackers I've ever seen play football, and then watching him tackle every single person on the field. It was unbelievable. Watch out for that guy this weekend. Just a solo guy. Maybe not the biggest factor in the game. That was one thing. And then another thing is, if you bet on the Rams and they don't cover this spread, you're going to look back in this game and say, I can't believe I faded Tom Brady. If you bet on the Bucs and the Rams win this game outright, you can at least say your money was with Tom Brady. So that's the only thing I'll say. You don't look stupid if your money was on the Bucs this weekend.
No, you and your mom are going to be broke going, at least our money was on Tom Brady.
That's what I'll say. I'll say, well, at least my money was with Tom.
Line to get soup saying, we had our money on Tom Brady. You guys too? Yeah.
So at least my money was with Tom.
I do like the Gio Bernard stuff. I think Cameron Brate as well. Cameron Brate plus 375 for a touchdown. And then I was just checking out Bet Builder. Both guys to throw an interception is plus 225. I don't hate that either. I think Brady's going to be under a lot of pressure, and then, Stafford. Although, listen, Matt Stafford, there wasn't a cornerback anywhere near any of his receivers last week, but I think that says more about the opposition than it does him.
Yeah, I just JD, I'm with you, and I know Tom Brady has done so many cruel things to me over the years, so there's that in the back of my mind. I just can't get that over, but I actually have a Super Bowl ticket on the Rams, 11-1 at the start of the year. I was ready to throw that out halfway through the season, but they seem to turn things around. And I don't know. I agree in the fact that there's just I just don't see the Bucs. They just don't have the weapons right now. They're too banged up. I know I'm going to feel like an idiot when Tom Brady ends up winning this thing, and then we'll get to the next game, and then I see the only thing keeping away the Buffalo Bills from a Super Bowl is going to be that man if that happens. And it's just not going to bad things are going to go through my head. But I like the Rams here. I got to roll with them. I jumped off the bandwagon halfway through the year. I'm back on the bandwagon now. I like this spot for them. I really do. So we might as sorry, go.
No, I was just thinking, like, it's funny. You have them at 11-1, which is good. And yet my brain kind of feels bad for you because there was probably a point in the season where you could have got them like at like 30, 35-1. And when you said 11-1, I was like, that's kind of underwhelming. And I forgot what heavy favorites they were when they first got Matt Stafford, or how people perceived them earlier in the year. Still, 11-1 is nothing to shake a stick at. That's something I'd be loving right now.
I think it was better than you're going to get right now.
Yeah, I think it got down to plus like 800 or 750 at some point when they came. No worries. When they went up, I think they got to plus 750 or 800 when they came flying out of the gates. But I don't know. I still don't feel great about it because, Jake, like you said, Stafford, Brady. But I'm just going to go with my gut here. I'm going with the Rams, and I know I'm going to hate myself for it.
It's just funny the way you guys have all talked about this game has felt like the Rams are actually the favorite. When you look at the line, it's Tampa -3. Even when they know the injuries to the offensive line, they know what's going on. So I don't know. It's the more you guys talk about the Rams, the more I like Tampa. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Good. All right, we'll take it. That's fine. So into the game,
JD's going to be tweeting me on Sunday morning or on Sunday afternoon. He's going to be tweeting me. Like, oh, yeah. 100%. At least your money was at Tom, you idiot. Yeah, thanks.
No. What do you think's more likely? You got the favorite and Tom Brady, and you're like, JD's going to be tweeting me. It's like the far more likely outcome here is
well, I'm just saying if the Rams end up pulling it off, you're definitely going to be tweeting me if the Rams pull it off.
100%.
And then I'm going to log off for the night because I don't want to watch this next game.
All right. Well, I'm the bigger man. I'm not going to bring up the fact that the Bills absolutely boat raced the Patriots, beat the wheels off them last week. I won't bring that up. I'm too big of a man to do that, so I won't say anything about that. But the Bills are playing the Chiefs. The Chiefs -2. The Bills, you can get them at plus 100 right now on the money line. The over-under is at 54, and I absolutely love the over before we even get into this game. I'm not going to get into too much here because I obviously have a rooting interest as a card-holding member of the Bills Mafia, but I will say the demons that were slayed last week with the Patriots for Bills Mafia, it happened. Another team that has given them all sorts of fits, especially last year in the AFC Championship, they're standing in their way as well. JD, please tell me that more demons can be slayed here for the Buffalo Bills, or are the Chiefs back to the well-oiled machine that we saw last year and down the stretch here in the regular season?
So this isn't necessarily like the way I'm picking this game, but I am going to bet the Bills to win in like an alternate spread where they blow them out, because I actually think that there is potential for that. Like, to me, we could end up watching this game and saying, oh, the Bills thing was actually like they found themselves. Like, I actually think back to that second half against the Bucs where they just decided like, hey, our season isn't over and we're going to go back out and we're going to force overtime against Tom Brady. And the narrative had already been written for their season. People were starting, like Bills fans thought they weren't even going to make the playoffs at that point. Like halftime of that game, Bills fans were like, oh my God, we're going to miss the playoffs. We're going to play the Saints. We're going to have the schedule and it's going to break. Like we're going to fall out. This is what's going to happen here. Wow. Bills, classic Bills. And instead I have a confidence in that team right now. I think there's a swagger to that defense. Like those safeties, Poyer and Hyde, that's as good as it gets right now with any two-man tandem in football. Do I think that they can force a turnover on Mahomes? Do I think that those guys can really say, okay, you really want to throw to Travis Kelce, your security blanket all day? Like, no, we're taking this away today. Like, that's going to be our focus. I saw that speech Poyer gave where he did their legacy ends tonight or their time ends tonight. And I think the Bills are feeling themselves. I think that they're well coached. They've had symmetry with the coach and the GM where the two things have aligned to a roster and a foundation and a belief that resonates throughout the entire organization. I think they've been to the playoffs now a couple of times and have learned lessons. And I really believe this. I really do believe this. I think that the gap between Mahomes and Allen is not that big. If Allen plays at his highest, at his very best, I think he's right there with him. The fancy stats, they tell you that the number one rusher in the NFL in terms of value this year was who? Derrick Henry? No. Was it no? It was Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the best rushing QB in the NFL, better than Lamar Jackson. He trucks boys. I don't trust this Chiefs defense. I think that it's kind of a pretender defense. And I think that Allen is going to shred them. I think they designed their team to beat them and that the Bills are going to come through here. Granted, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to play this on a short line. I'm just going to do this alternate spread for the Bills where they win big and say, I'm going to play the blowout theory because I also understand that, again, our theories all come down to, but Patrick Mahomes. And I do think I'm being a little disrespectful in my brain of the Chiefs. But I think this Bills team is the team that got hot at the right time, the team that has the mental edge of people don't believe in us, people are sleeping on us, people disrespect us. I think they might have the quarterback who goes the best right now, who's the hottest. They've got top-end receivers, a bunch of guys that can break your back. They just have all these different ways of doing it. Now even Singletary looks like someone who's got a little juice in his leg. I don't know. I love what I'm feeling from the Bills right now. And it's not just the one thing. My only fear, Pat, and I will say this just to cap it off as the one undercut my thing is I've had a few NFL players on the show this week. I was talking to Chris Long, and his point was that was the Bills Super Bowl that they just played.
Yeah.
Beating the Patriots was their Super Bowl, and the sort of letdown even in a playoffs. He's like, don't underestimate what that means to an organization when you beat up on a bully. And going into that game, kind of just the weight that they carried into it and how it can actually exhaust you the next week. So that's probably why I'm not locking in the Bills, and I'm just going to play a smaller number on that alt spread.
Well, speaking of the bully, Jake, do you think that there's going to be too much of a letdown spot, or you saw firsthand, is this Bills team legit?
Yeah, I'm itching to talk right now. How many Super Bowls can you win in a season? Because I think
get out of here.
Game, I agree. I think that was a big game for the Bills to win.
Funny.
You kill off some demons. You kill off some demons with New England. Now you have Kansas City. You beat them. They have demons with Kansas City. There's another Super Bowl. You get Tennessee. Well, maybe there's some demons there the last couple times they've lost to them. And then Tom Brady makes the Super Bowl. There's another demon. So you can win 4 Super Bowls in the same playoffs. I'm betting KC. You just made me realize that Pat has a Leafs jersey hanging next to that Bills uniform. and that's what I thought with the Leafs last year was I was like, well, they get one Stanley Cup if they beat all the teams in the North Division because we have that on for the rest of my life. And then we get the second Stanley Cup when we beat that. It's that terrifies me. Switch. Yeah. Chiefs. I'm going with the Chiefs. No, but in all seriousness, I just continue to flip-flop on this game. I can't decide. But I just mentioned it the game before. One of these underdogs has to win. So you get the Bills at plus money. You said plus 100 there, Pat. I had plus 110 about an hour ago. So that's already moved 10 points. Is that?
I believe right? So. Yeah.
Money line?
I believe so.
Interesting.
Well,
that's the thing. We're going to see money come in on the Bills because it's Canada, right? And we have a ton of Bills fans here. So I definitely think that'll skew it a bit. But I don't know. I think Chris was tweeting about it earlier in the week. You can get Kansas City money line around the minus 130 range, minus 128. Hard to fade Mahomes. Guy's been to 3 straight AFC championship games. I know it's not an individual sport. I keep talking about these quarterbacks, but I don't know. It really does come down to it. You see, by this point in the season, it's usually the best quarterbacks that are here, right? Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Stafford. Okay, there's a few guys that maybe aren't the guys, but there's some absolute guys that are still left. So I don't know. I don't hate the money line on KC, but I wouldn't be surprised the Bills have found something. Killed KC in their last meeting, 38-20. So I'd like to hear what Chris thinks. I know you mentioned it earlier on Twitter in the week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I put a whole lot into it's really tough to win on the road in the playoffs. And I feel like Buffalo, it's one thing for them to beat New England at home with a rookie quarterback. It's another thing to go into Kansas City and beat Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid when they've got home field advantage and they've been at the top of the mountain. So you guys know I'm a wrestling guy. I would never have bet on the Undertaker streak to end, and I'm never going to bet on Kansas City to lose to Buffalo. It may happen. Buffalo may Brock Lesnar or the Undertaker, but I am not going to. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to play the Chiefs money line and hope everybody has fun.
This is a complete stay away game, obviously, for me. I just hate betting on teams that I cheer for because then it's extra pain when they lose. But this Bills team was constructed for one thing this year, and it was to beat the Chiefs. And we saw it in the regular season. So now we're just going to be able to see if it works in the postseason. And yes, KC, their defense has improved very much. No Trey White. That concerns me as well. But as JD said, this secondary, even without him, is playing unbelievable. But this team was literally, that's why they struggled against some teams that weren't very good. And they struggled at points during the season to stop the run or to run the ball. Because in the offseason, they said, well, we know we can beat everyone else. The team that we can't get over the hump is Kansas City. And I honestly think, yes, last week was the big Super Bowl, but this is a team that they've been, had circled on their calendar all season long throughout training camp. This is the team that is here to beat. So I think if there is a letdown spot, it would probably be the following week against the Titans, who are completely built to beat a team like the Bills.
Yeah, but
so
then you're
doing
the Super Bowl thing against the Titans because they've had your number. They beat you week after week. Jake's right. And so, I think the play here for me is just bet the over and have fun. Honest to God, because this is such a coin toss game. Like, everybody's cases are so clear. It is one of those games where, man, just both offenses are going to rip it up. Like, both these offenses are going to score, right? And maybe it doesn't hit that total, but at least you're going to be close to it. This game's not going to be, 21-14, 21-17. Like, there's no fucking way. So, that's why that total is so high. This is just one of those old, bet the highest number over, bet the lowest number under. But this is one of those, I don't think they can set the total high enough for me. This reeks of both teams score into the 30s.
Mm-hmm. It does, but that also makes me want to wait until kickoff and take the under, just to be the contrarian.
Oh, don't be that guy.
Loses money.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, what a fun Sunday night that'll be.
This is the thing. Why I don't want to go to Vegas with Kris is because I know, all day we'll be sitting in the pool, drinking drinks, having a good time, shooting the shit about our bets, being tonight we got to bet this. And then I know, sit down in front of the screens, we'll have all the slips. And then Kris is yeah, I went the other way on all our bets. And I'll be fuck you. Just, he's that guy. He's that guy. Or he doesn't tell you, or he's the guy who doesn't tell you. And at the end of the night, you're fuck. And then you realize he was rooting against you the whole time and goes and catches the slip. That's also what it's I can see Kris's moves. It was just I had it during the game. I was betting on the Bills. I was betting on the under.
Listen, I've been around this thing long enough to know that the you got to fade the public every now and again.
Yeah. That really what you should do every week is listen to guys like us and then be yeah, that's what you guys think, huh? Opposite.
Just fade us completely. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, the rich man. How did that happen?
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. What I want for Coward's Parlay next year is I want to have it where it's you bet with me or you bet against me.
Yes.
I need a bet against me feature for that gets juiced up too. For say, there's got to be two ways with it.
Absolutely.
I love that. So yeah, I'm just gonna bet the total. I'm gonna have fun. I'm just gonna enjoy both teams because I actually kind of part of me roots for the Bills just in the sense of tortured fan base, and I relate to them, and I just think that they have cool fans, and I think it'd be awesome to not be the brunt of jokes anymore. But to me, there's also an element where I'm yeah, you're already over that now. I don't think anybody views the Bills fans as a joke, and I just want to see a good game where both quarterbacks are at their very best, and we see, like I said, 60 plus points in this game. That's the ideal scenario where it really is they got the ball last thing. That's it. That's what I want.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good way to end our discussion with the NFL Divisional Round. You can get all those odds at coolbet.com. Of course, we talked about the bet builder, props, all of that available at Coolbet. Now, I know we said the best play for the viewers and the listeners is just to fade our picks, but we're going to give out our weekend wagers, our best bets for the weekend. So do whatever you want to do with this. So Kris, we'll start with you. What is your best bet for the weekend? It could be NFL, can be anything, literally anything on the board on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, as we're recording this, none of the NHL lines are out for the weekend. So I'll go back to the NFL, and I think my absolute best bet is a Rob Gronkowski touchdown. I mean, show me a game that Tom Brady's ever needed to win where Gronk didn't get a touchdown. I just plus 117 or something right now, so it's about even money. I think it's as close to a lock as you can get in this kind of situation as a Gronk touchdown. I don't know.
I love it. Jake, what do you got?
I don't know. This is tough. I'm looking. I'd hate to go the same game as Kris, but after seeing that Tampa D last week, the Rams D, I'm gonna go under 48. Bucks Rams. I'd love to know where the public is. I'm sure they're on the under as well, and I'll look like a goof on this one. But I think I'm going to go with that one. I wish it wasn't the same game. One little teaser I'll throw in NBA. The Cleveland Cavaliers, best first half cover team in the NBA. They play tomorrow at home against OKC. It'll probably be a pretty big spread. I imagine around 5.5, 6. Look for that number. Cavs have been pretty good at covering those first half spreads, so I don't mind that.
I will say another thing that I've done this week that I'm pretty confident in is just different combinations of teasing spreads for the underdogs in the NFL. Like I think there's a chance that all of them or any of them win outright. So I think teasing the underdog spreads up is also a good play.
Yeah,
JD, it's UFC 270 is your best bet coming with that card. And as we talked about earlier in the show, we do have a bet and get promotion as well. So pretty good time to be betting on the UFC this weekend.
So I actually like a bunch of things in the UFC, but the number one thing I'll also say though with Jake is like one of my most profitable things this year has been Cavs. And I like, yeah. I feel like I bet the Cavs almost every night. It actually cost me the other night in a parlay because I've just been hammering them always. But yeah, I do love the Cavs. So I was talking about this with Kris or what is now going to be yesterday. I love this guy named Mikel Pereira on the UFC. And the reason why I love him is because the UFC is more pro wrestling than you think sometimes in the way that Dana White and co book fights. Pereira is a super one-of-a-kind, interesting fighter that you want to be able to throw on cards and have people watch. And he's fighting a guy who, granted, is a replacement. But I watch a lot of UFC. I follow sport real close. I don't know who this guy is. And I know who Pereira is. And that is usually my like number one flag with UFC betting of going like, oh, that's the case. Well, like, let's put this guy on a card then, and let's make sure that this guy is in money lines and plays and whatever. I actually like throwing Pereira in money line plays because he's -2 something, but you can get him by a finish. At last I checked on Coolbet, it was -110, I believe, or -108, somewhere in that range. And I think he's going to finish him. He is a finishing type fighter, and he's fighting someone who I think is just going to be completely outclassed. So that is my number one. I also like Ngannou at the +140 number. Yeah. It's Francis fucking Ngannou. And I think he's like, I think you can get his knockout at +150. It's like barely any difference. Basically, the books are like, yeah, like Coolbet's telling you, you can only win Francis if it's by a knockout. But I still would play that. I'd still play the +150 and get the extra 10 cents. But I just think that one punch power like that early in a fight, good spot to do some round betting too, like first or second round KO. That's probably most likely where Francis does it. So I think second round is +800. I'll probably bang that out too. But the only thing that scares me is usually with a number like that, where there's a favorite and a face, it's that these two guys as former sparring partners, that information continues to come out of when they were sparring partners. We knew that Cyril was the better of the two and that Francis does need the knockout. I just think that Francis is so special as a knockout artist and so powerful that I'm still going to bet that knockout, and I'm still going to bet it in the second round at +800. So like those are my two favorite UFC bets this weekend.
So Gone is gone from -137 or something this morning, right, to -152 as we talk about this on Friday evening. I mean, I've seen him fight. I've seen Ngannou fight. I feel like Ngannou is just a beast. Like, do you see that this should be as big of a favorite at -152
No,
that it is?
What I'm saying about the behind the scenes stuff. This to me is Kris, you know that there is a Vegas community, and you know that the fight community is the same thing where people from that camp who like they were training partners. They worked out in the same gym. They both got the Frankenstein treatment, as Ariel Helwani likes to call it, where both guys are just absolute physical freaks that got molded into top-end contenders. And the fear here is twofold. One is that Francis's eyes are already on another promotion and that he's already looking to get the bag and he's done with the UFC. If Francis wins this fight, the UFC controls his rights until the end of the year. If Francis loses this fight, his contract is done with the UFC. So I'm just saying, like, there's some shit here that should scare you as a fan who's betting on Francis. I just have a tough time believing that once you get into the octagon, your Francis Ngannou, you're not going to punch this guy as hard as you possibly fucking can. Like, I'm just saying maybe he didn't take his camp as serious, like that his approach was not the same, that like fighters' mentality is important. So there's definitely some stuff with Francis that scares me, right? But the reason why I'm betting this is that Cyril has never blown me away. I think he's a quality fighter. I think he's a quality heavyweight. But I watched Francis Ngannou absolutely handle Stipe Miocic, like handle him. So I still like that power. I still think that plays. It's like the Derek Lewis thing. It's like, I love one of my favorite bets in UFC.
Oh, well, I'll pick that up because mine is the same way. I always bet Derek Lewis. They keep making him an underdog and he keeps knocking people out. And I mean, anytime Derek Lewis fights, it's appointment viewing and betting for me. So I think he was going to go down the same path with that. He does make an interesting point though. And I've seen that a bit this week, is that Dana White and Francis Ngannou are not on the same page whatsoever. So it's like I'll go back to wrestling. You guys might be too young for this, but you should know it. Like Bret Hart wouldn't drop the title, so they took it from him. And I wonder if it's going to be the same kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I'd like to get JD's perspective on that. Oh, he's back. Okay, good.
I forgot to plug my laptop in. What an idiot!
It's all good.
You'll get your. I picked up what you were saying though, because I'm the same way. Derek Lewis as an underdog, they keep making him an underdog. He keeps knocking people the fuck out. So I'm there with that. And then
my favorite athlete.
And then I brought up the Bret Hart thing. It's like, when you don't get along with the promoter, what's going to happen, right? Is Gon going to get the quick bell on the sharpshooter in Montreal? Is that what's going to happen here tonight? I don't know.
I don't know if it's like necessarily like rig or conspiracy talk for me. Like, I don't know if it's like that. I don't think that they'll rig it or anything like that. But I do think that there is just that element of the spooky stuff is Francis knowing that he'd have to sit out for another year of his career essentially and be embattled with the UFC in a fight, or he leaves and he goes to another promotion where they literally hand him millions of dollars. This is someone who like was impoverished, man. Like he's gone from impoverished to knowing that there's a bag of millions of dollars out there. So it's just something to consider in that fight. Like when you're looking at the number and you're trying to figure out the line, like it's a bet with caution, because Francis normally in this fight, I think that if you took out that factor, that contract factor, that you wouldn't see that money coming in on Cyril.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love the TKO bet. I think it's 140. You said I really like that. With the Pereira as well. I think that's a great bet as well. I was also looking at the under 1.5 as well. I think that fight will end quickly. And I think it's, he's going up against a tomato can. It's his first fight in the UFC. He's not a known commodity. I totally agree there. But the thing with Ngannou that does scare me, as you mentioned, the boxing enticing him. We've seen so many times in this sport, once someone reaches a certain amount of fame or a certain amount of money, they're not as hungry anymore. And I just hope that's not the case with Ngannou, because he is such a special athlete. I think this is a bet where I'm going to say all night, I'm not betting it. And then comes to they're walking out to the ring and I'm logging on right away and I'll put a bet. If I lose, it's fine. I'm just going to really enjoy the fight. But the Pereira under 1.5 is definitely my best bet. And for my official play though, for the weekend wager, we talked about lacrosse at the start. We'll end with lacrosse. It's a tough weekend. No Canadian teams in actions, but Philly, New York, over 21.5. Both teams have electric offense. New York hasn't won a single game this year. Their defense is really bad. Their goaltending has struggled. If they're going to win or even keep this close, Jeff Teat is basically the Connor McDavid or the next coming of Connor McDavid in lacrosse, he's going to have to go off, take the over, and just sit back and relax. I think that game actually starts right before the football does. I think it's an early afternoon game, so maybe it's a little warm up to the football games on Sunday.
Big fan of that.
There you go. All right. Well, JD, we've had you for quite a long time. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank you for coming on. You're going to have to come back again. But honestly, man, thanks a lot for doing this. And I'm looking forward to a night in the Hammer watching The Rock.
Boys, I cannot wait. I just forgot that they're in the Hammer now. Like that was reminded. I was like, buddy, what the fuck are you talking about? It's the Toronto Rock they play. I was like, all right, fuck. They do play in the Hammer. Yes, absolutely a night in the Hammer. I'm trying to get tickets for that Canada soccer game. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off though. Apparently, there's
dude, I bought them, and then I got
way.
Yeah, I got the email this morning. They canceled all the tickets, and then they're doing another pre-sale for everyone who bought the initial ones. Now I bought mine resale, so I won't even have access to the pre-sale. And then it's 50%. So then the resale market's probably going to be insane. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I saw the tickets were up to like 200 something just to get in the building and some like really shitty seats, but whatever. I'll still pay 200 to go to that game and sit and freeze my ass off and watch Canada soccer. Just like I need something to do, boys. I'm tired of sitting inside. I want to go to a game, like I want to be at something. I live in this city, not to like I didn't choose to live in fucking Red Deer. Like I chose to live in Toronto. Like I want to go to some games. Like like I left the Yukon for a reason. Let's go. Bring me to a game.
Yeah.
I feel that. I totally feel that. I mean, it's the same thing. It's but yeah, so they're redoing the entire sale, so we won't know anything until like Tuesday, Wednesday next week.
I'll get a shot. Give me a shot. All right, boys, this was fun.
All right, cheers, buddy.
All right, thanks a lot, JD.
Thanks, JD.
Good luck with all the bets. Let's go. Let's make some money.
All right, we want to thank JD Bunkis for coming on and talking shop. I got to go back and dig up that film of him taking shots at the track. That would be hilarious to see. I know he said he was a pretty good goaltender, but I know those guys whip that ball around pretty hard. So
he's not like, to be a good lacrosse goalie, you got to be a really big guy. He's not a really big guy. So I can imagine it was difficult for him.
Yeah, there's a few guys in the league. Like I know Rochester's goalie. He's a smaller guy, but he's a freak athlete. But when you look at most of the guys in the NL, they're pretty big bodies, and then you throw that gear on. But the days of just throwing in the biggest guy possible and just standing there, that's no more. Like you still like Nick Rose, Warren Hill, these guys that are big but guys, they're still pretty athletic. So I think I got to see that. He said he made a couple of saves. I want to make sure he's not lying and he didn't get lit up too hard. But we want to thank everyone for tuning in to the first episode of the Coolbet Canada podcast. Of course, you can find all the odds, the props, everything we talked about here today at coolbet.com. And Jake, we did just talk a little bit about the Canadian men's national soccer team in action. And of course, at Coolbet, we have a little bit of promotion for those World Cup qualifier games, don't we?
Yeah, coming up next week, or this week coming up, it'll be Saturday when you hear this. We have the Canadian men's national team bet and get promo. So they got 3 games, 2 next week, and then 1 the following week on February 2nd. So if you bet $15 on one of those first 2 games, I believe it's Honduras or the U.S. game. If you bet $25 on either the Honduras or U.S. game, you're going to get a $15 free bet for the El Salvador game the following week on February 2nd. So the first 2 games are January 27th and the 30th. You bet $25 on one of those 2 games, opt in, and you're going to get a free $15 bet for the El Salvador game on February 2nd.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I think, if Canada, if they can actually advance and qualify to the World Cup, like World Cup's always awesome, but to actually have like your home country, in the World Cup, it's going to be awesome. Like I still think we're going to have, especially in Toronto and the GTA, you're still going to have your Italy fans, your Portugal fans, but the sense of like national, I think this is going to be one of the craziest things we've ever seen. Knock on wood, though, they still got to get in. They got to get in, but I think that'd be electric.
I think it's going to be great. And you know what? If Canada gets into the World Cup, let's send a couple of cool bettors. Let's send them all the way to Qatar.
Ooh, I like that.
Let's do it.
I like that. All right. Well, fingers crossed that Canada does make it into Qatar, because maybe a cool better will find them their way to Qatar. So for Kris Abbott, Jake Bolin Moss, I'm Pat Gregoire. We want to thank you for tuning into episode number 1 of the Coolbet Podcast. And as always, stay cool.